Obviously, we have a lot of interest in today's program about creating an Indigenous Heritage Center. And with the introductions, I am told that one of our past Citizen of the Year recipients is going to do the honors. So please welcome Susan Page.
When I met Susana Valadez 41 years ago, she and her Huichol husband, Mariano Valadez, had just founded the Huichol Center for Cultural Survival and Traditional Arts. It was located in the coastal town of Santiago Escuintla, Nayarit, because she wanted to provide aid to the many Huichol families who were leaving their isolated mountain homeland in search of jobs in the far-off tobacco fields. She was appalled to witness the inhumane conditions for the low-paid migrant workers where they camped out among pesticide-covered tobacco leaves. She showed me a photograph of a little boy drinking water out of a discarded container that held pesticides imported from the US with a label that said in English, "Poison, do not use." In response to the many dire scenarios that threaten this endangered indigenous culture with extinction, anthropologist Susana Valadez created a project that would establish alternate sources of income by, in her words, transforming field hands to creative hands. The Huichol Center became a skill training hub for Huichol artists to refine and market their native artwork skills, which included yarn painting, beaded jewelry, beaded figurines, embroidery, weaving, and much more, all of which she had been documenting for her master's dissertation at UCLA. The facility she created in the town where the tobacco fields were located provided the Huichol migrant laborers with a place to gather on weekends to obtain free medical assistance from tribal shamans and local doctors, prenatal care, nutritious meals grown in the gardens on the site there, monetary grants to people in need, and much more assistance. In order to create a long-term solution that would create culturally relevant but high-paying jobs for the Huichols, she introduced a wider range of fashion colors and designs and quality materials, as like beads, thread, yarn, and unique sculptures for their bead art. This enabled the talented artists to create pieces that could be sold as artwork rather than as trinkets on the street corners in high-end galleries located in tourist towns like Puerto Vallarta, Guadalajara, and New York, in the New York fashion industry. Over the years, the jewelry making project gained so much esteem and momentum that an exquisite piece of jewelry created by the Huichol Center design team was featured on the front cover of Vogue magazine. And now, after all these decades, Huichol jewelry making is a well-established source of income for families throughout the Huichol homeland. And a lot of the Huichol jewelry you see around had its origins with Susana's designs at the Huichol Center. In the late 1990s, Susana relocated the Huichol Center from the coastal Nayarit over to the other side of the mountains to Huayhuquilla el Alto, a town in the Huichol area there in northern Jalisco. And there, her life's work continues to this day, after almost 4 decades of working with the Huichols, with philanthropic and scholarly projects that have made a huge difference in the quality of life for many Huichol families. When Huichol Center designs ended up on the front cover of Vogue magazine, Susana used to jokingly tell us, "Go figure. My goal was to get the Nobel Peace Prize, and instead I ended up on the front cover of Vogue." And we would all laugh. And then in 2019, Susana and her project were in fact nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Truly, this recognition for her work was absolutely appropriate for the impact she has made on hundreds of families and on the vital preservation of their ancient wisdom and beautiful culture, as you are about to hear. I love this quote from Buckminster Fuller that describes Susana's work for almost half a century now. Never forget, no matter how overwhelming life's challenges and problems seem to be, that one person can make a difference in the world. In fact, it is always because of one person that all the changes that matter in the world come about. Buckminster Fuller. I'm very excited for you to meet one of the people I admire most on this planet, my dear friend, Susana Valadez.
What a beautiful introduction. Who is that person you're talking about? Well, I'll tell you who it is, folks. It's the new girl in town. And boy, am I ever looking forward to telling you the story and getting you all inspired about this wonderful project that I've been dedicated to doing over the past almost half a century now, and to see how you can be motivated to create it together with me, to create a beautiful vision with me that will have so many benefits for San Miguel and surrounding regions and the Huichol people. And so without further ado, let me start the slides, because pictures speak louder than words. Let's see, here we go. And so are we on here? Okay. Just want to get that first slide going here. Hang on a minute. All right, so I know I only have 30 minutes to change the world. Let's see if we can do it in less. Okay. So, you can read that. Founder and director of the Huichol Center for Cultural Survival and Traditional Arts. Well, this was me in 1975, a grad student roaming the halls of UCLA, Royce Hall, and dreaming that I would go do my field work, a 2-week field study in some indigenous tribe in Mexico. Little did I know that decades later, I would call this town, Huichol El Alto, Jalisco, my home, and the place where I would be able to fulfill my destiny and do my and practice my life's work. Actually, this is a certificate I received from the county government, from Ayuntamiento in Huichol, saying that I am a distinguished Huichol citizen. So high five, everybody. Who knew, right? And as Susan mentioned, I was actually nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, which opened so many doors to getting the message of the importance of keeping this culture alive and thriving as an ancient tribe in the modern world. So you might ask, how did I get from being from a UCLA grad student doing a field study to a Nobel Peace Prize nominee and getting the Distinguished Citizen Award? Well, I'll tell you how. I worked like a mule, literally. Let me show you where Huichol is located. You see that little gray square on the map there? That's the Huichol region. So we're kind of far from San Miguel, but the ancient tribes, the Chichimecas, the Otomi, the Nahuatl people, were all trading in this region. And so there are historical archaeological precedents for connections between the Huichol region and the Mesoamerican people. And still many of these trading practices still exist. So I went to study this Uto-Aztecan speaking tribe here up, where you can see some of their relatives throughout Mexico. You can see the Nahuatl people, which inhabit this region and further down in Mexico, as well as the Hopi, Pima, Shoshone, Southwestern tribes. And they're all Uto-Aztecan people. So the language family is still very much alive, but not doing so well, because all of these indigenous tribes in the modern world are threatened with extinction, and their language is going to be the first to go. That's when the red lights start blinking, when you lose the language. So I ventured into a world that, coming from LA, I thought I was on the set of some Universal Studios screen set or something. It was just really hard to realize that I was with actual human beings who carried an ancestral lineage that goes back thousands of years. And not only did they keep their traditions and language and art and songs and all the beautiful tributes to humanity alive, but they still were pretty much mirroring their ancestors from this side, which is almost 100 years old. So, by the way, all these photos I'm showing you are from the Huichol Center's ethnographic archive, which is what we're here to talk about today and how it's in danger. But we'll get to that. Anyway, so I thought I had gone back into time and found myself in a world of beauty, of inspiration, of mysticism. And, I told my mom that I had to go to Mexico for a field study. She thought, she's going to be on Girls Gone Wild or something. Well, little did she know that I'd be one of the first outside people to ever walk these steep canyons, let alone document and go to the cracks and crevices in the world that were never explored by any of the earlier anthropologists, such as Carl Lumholtz, Robert Zing, Conrad Preuss. There have been other anthropological expeditions, as you can see here on the right. This was from Lumholtz and his mule train in the 1890s. And little did I know that I would be saddling up my mule and making the trek into this far off place where I would become a stranger in a strange land, not only among this amazing group of people, but with the topography, which was just so monumental and mind-boggling to think that people could actually survive in the cracks and crevices of the Sierra Madre Occidental as they escaped from the horrors of the Spanish conquest. And they found ways to eke out a way of life based on relationships of reciprocity with Mother Nature. I kept the text on some of these slides because I like to read them, but I love this. The Wixárika, by the way, that's the Huichol name for themselves. The Wixárika way of life gave birth to profound spirituality based on the co-evolution of the human animal. Yes, we are two-footed animals with the human spirit, which is infinite. So here I was, a stranger in a strange land in this incredible topography, learning every day, looking around, feeling like a fish out of water, everyone always staring at me. And I was the butt of everybody's jokes, but I could take it. It was fine because I had stumbled onto a portal. And it was a portal into a world of knowledge that has long disappeared from human consciousness, but is from the pre-Columbian times when the shamans ventured into the metaphysical realms and had contact with the spirits of the land, with the cosmological landscape, showing that interaction between the human animal and the human spirit, honoring it, revering it, and learning from nature, learning nature's secrets to allow people to survive in an environment where life is so hard. Just to get from point A from point B, you have to walk down the canyon. It takes you 2 days, So I like this to look at the beautiful yarn painting on the left. By the way, all these images I'm using of the art are the yarn art that the Huichol people are so famous for. But their ancient roots reach down to humanity's deepest core, where relationships of reciprocity were forged between humans and their divine counterparts. These alliances of give and take with nature provide the physical and spiritual tools needed for survival in their harsh environment. the give and take between nature. Now there's a concept, right? So once I finally made it down the mountain, I came to a ceremonial center where people were still practicing rituals that I'm sure this was a mirror into the past, or a portal, a gateway into another dimension where these rituals and ceremonies and practices were alive and well. Y'all, you've all heard of Quetzalcoatl, the plumed serpent, right? Well, look at these men. They're holding a serpent staff and they're all plumed, and they're recreating with great fidelity to detail and memory of all the words to the songs and the dances. They're recreating the cosmological landscape of the Huichol universe, which you can see in this yarn painting by my son, Susana Valadez. This is the cosmological map, the Huichol metaphysical universe, the realm of the esoteric, where knowledge flows freely between the human and the spirit world because of these treasured and honored relationships of reciprocity between our human condition and our higher selves. So these relationships are taught to Huichol people through the use of many different plants, but one in particular is the renowned peyote cactus, a plant that has a sacred ancestral lineage that goes back to pre-Columbian times, but provides the visions and knowledge. It's like, this is not a recreational quote unquote drug. Peyote is used to open up channels of communication between our creators, between our true selves, our higher knowledge, our higher selves. And over the centuries, the Huichol people have become the custodians, Huichol and other indigenous people, of course, but here we're talking just about the Wixárika. They've become the custodians of this ancestral plant medicine, and their reverence for it has provided them with so many metaphysical skills and talents that we in our Western mindset can rarely even imagine. But these are the shamans, these are the practitioners of the sacred who use their sacred feathers and wands and arrows and all sorts of things they've acquired on their spiritual path to heal people. When you live out in that environment, in the rugged canyons, you just can't go to Kaiser when you get sick. You know, who do you go to? You go to the leaders, to the revered elders, the venerated elders who hold that knowledge from the spirit world because they've practiced the rituals, they've honored the creators in the correct, reverent ways. That's a good word. Reverence, you know, how many times do we use the word reverence in our daily lives and consciousness? Not much. But they've become what I say here, the interdimensional go-betweens. So, you know, this still exists on this planet. There are Huichol people selling at the market or walking down the street, and they're carrying the knowledge and the essence of a culture that's still alive and well in the physical plane, but provides us with a portal, an entryway to the invisible realm, to the repositories of knowledge that is here on earth for all human beings to have access to, and to learn about the purpose of our lives and what we're here to do and how we're here to love one another and live in harmony with each other and the natural world. These are the messages from the plants, from the medicine plants. And the shamans channel these messages. They channel them through their music, they channel them through their spiritual techniques. They're called actually technicians of the sacred. So, you know, you think of your computer technician fixing your computer, but I'd rather much have a sacred technician fixing my spiritual gaps or the problems that I would have with my spiritual path. anyway, technicians of the sacred. That's a good concept. So this is where I landed, not landed, but walked into where I was living. This is the picture on the left is me in 1975. I was introduced myself as an anthropologist with the purpose of bringing alternatives to the many problems and obstacles that they were facing because of the encroachment of the modern world. I made a case to bring humanitarian aid into the culture. And so I was accepted into family and their way of life. And, being the Caucasian woman among all Huichol speaking and Spanish speaking people, as I said, I was always different, but I didn't want to be seen as the outsider. I wasn't the type of anthropologist who went and stuck my microphone in everybody's face and asked them about, what's the meaning of this or that. I learned by participant knowledge, by participating, not observing, but participating. And where's the best place to participate in an extended family setting? Of course, in the kitchen. Everybody's got to eat. And living in LA, I learned how to make pretty good tacos from that local taco truck. So I found my entryway to be able to be accepted into, becoming invisible. You kind of become invisible behind the corn grinder, while at the same time listening and witnessing everything that's going on in the kitchen and in the family life. So I learned all about the different foods that they were eating, the diet, which includes the above foods, some of which are known to us, others that aren't, but also, small game, deer, birds, fish, grasshoppers, bee larvae, honey, and other crops that were foraged. I came from an ethno-botanical background at UCLA, so I was always interested in documenting the plants, but especially were the plants that were used for producing food and medicine. So early on in my time with the Wixárika people, I began to document their uses of food plants and nature and healing plants. These drawings here represent the mesquite tree, where they get flour out of by pounding the beans and grinding them and making delicious food. Did you all know that you could have a wonderful cooking flour made out of mesquite? Well, so this is the way that I've been chronicling, and all of this is part of the Huichol Center's ethnographic archive. I don't ask questions, rather I ask of my friends and informants who would be paid to do this work to document it through their artistic skills. And as such, over the decades, I've amassed hundreds and hundreds of drawings from their perspective. Their drawings say what the message is that they want to convey. And so it's been a wonderful ethnographic technique that I've been able to use, always considering myself the anthropologist, never leaving that behind. You can take the anthropologist out of UCLA, but you can't take her out of the world. You can take the girl out of the city, but you can't take the city out of the girl. You know what I mean. Anyway, I was always the anthropologist. And, they'd say, why are you always asking so many questions? We don't care about this stuff. Why do you care about it? And yeah, I was always asking, what's this? What's that? But in a way that wasn't intrusive, in a way just through conversation. Oh, what's this mushroom called? And is it edible? And what about these leaves? And oh my goodness, they make wild cotton. And just discovering while walking through the canyons, I was 24 at that time and in pretty good shape. And could actually walk up and down those canyons and just go on discovery journeys while documenting all the time the plants and getting the knowledge from the people themselves. Just hundreds and hundreds of plants for different uses. And look on the bottom, 8422, if you have a cavity, a tooth cavity, go get this plant, or a genital infection, go get this plant. Well, obviously you wouldn't just pick it. All the plants have their stories behind them. And my goodness, the stories are so multi-leveled on how to use nature to heal ourselves. And, super pharma, eat your heart out, I've got, my cure for intestinal parasites is growing in your backyard, and no need to go to Walgreens or wherever we go. But the point is that this ethnographic archive includes so much information that came from the people themselves. So this is how they're presenting themselves to the world through their drawings. And here's the guy in the middle, he's got a Gila monster. And you would think, my God, why would anyone want to grab this Gila monster? Well, if you go into the annals of the Huichol Center Ethnographic Archive, you'll find out that he got this as a present for his wife. Because if she ties it up in a tree where she's weaving, during her backstrap weaving, she's going to see the designs on that Gila monster's back transform into the beautiful patterns that she's going to weave into a belt for her husband. So does that answer your question? Why the guy is holding the Gila monster? But what I want to say here is that there's just so much to be learned and so many levels of knowledge. And after being on the scene for, as I say, almost a half a century now, it's like a lotus. Every topic I come across, has so many levels, and we keep going farther and farther. And I actually feel that I've gotten a portal into the psyche of an ancient tribe, ancient Mesoamerica tribe. And when they say, why do you ask all these questions? It's so that 50 years from now, you'll have a roadmap back to this knowledge, to how to care for the corn when you harvest it so the seeds don't get ruined by the parasites, and how to safeguard your religious paraphernalia, or what it means to be a corn goddess and have the blessings of the spirit world in order that you'll have abundance in your corn crops and your families. And so these seeds have been kept. These are heritage seed strains that non-GMO, and they're still alive and well in the Huichol homeland. And part of the work of the Huichol Center is seed banking, because it's so important that these seeds remain and that people plant them. And so every year we plant out all different seeds that people bring us or that we've been saving. But we have, like I say here, we safeguard these seeds like precious gems. So that's a real important aspect of the Huichol Center's work, is not only safeguarding seeds of wisdom, but seeds, actually food and plant medicine seeds. The corn grows, and we have such abundance because, as the Huichols say, they do so many ceremonies in the cornfield that they express their relationship of gratitude, reverence. They honor the rain mothers who bring the nutrients to the corn children. They give love to the fertile soil that receives the seeds and brings life every generation. And the relationship, let me just say this, look at corn. When you think about it, it evolved in Mexico, south of Mexico. It evolved from a wild grass. And now this corn plant is all over the world, ending hunger, all over the world. But there's something, think about corn. If you plant an ear of corn in the fields, it's not going to grow. You need to remove the kernels. Human hands need to remove those kernels and plant each seed into the ground. And that's a perfect example of the relationship of reciprocity that the Huichols assume as stewards of the land, where they get in touch with the spirit of the land, and they take the seeds and they plant them by hand and have that relationship with their hands in the soil and feeling and caressing and loving Mother Earth and our planet. And that's an imperative that still so drives their everyday life, is thinking about, how can I give thanks to the earth? How can I give thanks to the sun and the rain mothers and the spirit world for all the abundance? So here we are, the kids, they're eating food that's planted in the Huichol Center's garden. It's a sustainable agricultural site, and get the children young. these are concepts that we want to make sure follow them into their teenage years and into their life's path, because we've ingrained it in them at a young age. So they're stewards of the earth. And even though in some areas these traditions are disappearing, at the Huichol Center, we are even planting, as you can see the guy in the blue shirt, he's planting our lettuce and recycled soda pop bottles. And they work really well. But as you can see, farm to table. And all of this is in response to the brutal poverty, so much hunger that's going on in the homeland. And so it's, really helping for people to learn how to be organic gardeners. And we get them young. We get the kids young working in those gardens. Another thing we do at the Huichol Center is our aquaponics project. There's thousands of tilapia fish growing in this tank here, fish tank here. And you can see, raise this, get that, sustainable water management, such important concepts to be teaching people to be stewards of the water and the right usage of water. And especially when our world is being so ravaged by drought and fires, and water's such, every drop of water is so important. But again, I think this slide tells us that, when you have a hungry person, you don't just give them the fish, you teach them how to fish. And that's been my policy. Teach people to be self-sufficient farmers, to grow good, nutritious food, to fight hunger and poverty with their own hands, own rituals, with their own relationship of reciprocity with nature. And so, during COVID time, these are people who would come and harvest every Friday what we all communally gardened and taking care of the fish. Hundreds of people were eating during COVID times when their sales as artists just collapsed, and everyone and the Huichol Center didn't have any money because we depend on the sale of artwork and donations. And so we were giving out food, raising our own food, but we were also wildcrafting. There's so many plants out in nature, like the nopali cactus that grow everywhere, that are great food producers, not only food, but fodder for animals. The prickly pears on the nopalis are so wonderful. It's just such a versatile plant. And it's so important to bring this wildcrafting knowledge back to the forefront during these terrible times that we live in, when nobody knows what's going to happen. But the more knowledge we know, like, did anybody here ever think about how you get those paddles off of the nopalis and actually get the spines off of them? And how to chop them and how to cook them? By the way, if you look at these drawings, you'll see that the writing on them, which explains what the drawing is, it's all in Huichol, in the Huichol written language and in the Spanish language, because again, it's so important to keep the language alive and to let Huichol speakers know that their heritage, this is the road map back to their indigenous knowledge that's disappearing. This is how we restore our roots with nature and learn about survival in the wilderness with the great teachings that they give us. So these people who are really, really, really interested as global warming threatens the planet, they're really interested in becoming cactus custodians, because cacti are drought-resistant plants and they give so many benefits to humanity. And we have the perfect place to do this in an already established peyote, not peyote, but cactus garden at the site of my dear friend Susan and Mayor Schachter, and on the site of Galeria Atotonilco, there's this wonderful place that would be perfect. The grounds are perfectly adapted to the Cactus Conservation Project, as well as a space to create our San Miguel Center for Indigenous Heritage. So part and parcel of the project, we are going to join hands and create here in San Miguel is the Eco Village component of it, the Cactus Conservancy. And you can see our friend Jen Haas, you all know her. She's the creator of the of her Museum of Mexican Popular Art out in Atotonilco. Well, Jen Haas has created a wonderful project for propagation of cacti, and she and I are really becoming good friends, in addition to her wonderful museum, which serves as a prototype for some of what we wish to accomplish. So so when we're talking about Indigenous heritage, we're not just talking about the arts and the music and the shamanic arts and the traditional arts. We're talking about the art of living with nature as part of nature, the art of creating beautiful sceneries and landscape design to honor our plant allies in all forms, be they medicinal or edible or psychedelic or whatever kinds of plants they are, we honor them. And it's time for humanity to step up to the plate with creating these new landscapes filled with cacti, filled with all the plants we revere. So moving right along here, let me tell you what I have as far as what this San Miguel Museum of Indigenous Heritage would contain. This is part of the ethnographic archive that I've been chronicling for years and years and years. I was so interested in the patterns because let me tell you something, folks. The Huichol language is a spoken and an oral language, and oral and a written language, but it's also a language of symbols. And they are wearing on their clothes, they're wearing hieroglyphs. Their symbols go on just beyond little decorations for adornments. They're telling their myths that each of these symbols has such an important message. They're icons that resonate with the souls and with the ancestral lineages of these folks. So I realized early on that this type of embroidery was just going to be disappearing. So I created, this is a museum on the right, a museum for Huichol women to have access to the designs that their grandmas used to make that I found in other villages. And we would do a design interchange of the traditional patterns. So that's what I did for my master's dissertation. Actually, it was a whole compilation of these ancient symbols, not ancient, but these hieroglyphs that appear on their native dress and in their embroideries. This inventory of symbols, it's huge, and we can easily say that the collection, the Huichol Center Ethnographic Archive, is the best collection of Wixárika art, culture, language, symbols, plant knowledge in the world, hands down. And I've worked, like I said, I've worked like a mule to put it together and collect it. In the process, I was doing museum exhibits. We had a museum at the De Young Museum in San Francisco, San Diego Museum of Man. I had to find funding for this operation somehow. So we began to sell art, and I met this wonderful, handsome man who was a yarn painter by the name of Mariano Valadez, and he spoke really good Spanish and was an amazing artist, and his medium is yarn art. And so no wonder I fell in love with him. What do you expect a LA girl from the 70s to do when a beautiful person, artist, comes into their lives and has that special look in his eye? Well, I'm going to tell you all about that in a different presentation. Or I can tell you, read my book. I'll save all that good stuff for later. But needless to say, we have a beautiful family, and our kids are all grown, and Rosie, I got grandkids. All my kids have their children now. So I'm the matriarch of an all Huichol family, except for me. Yeah, quite a story there. And our latest edition, it was born here in San Miguel. My sweet granddaughter named Davina was born here at the Mac Hospital. Anyway, Mariano, my husband, passed the baton, so to speak, to our son Silao, who's also become a master yarn artist. And he's teaching so many people to be yarn artists. And so he's actually created a guild of yarn artists. So now we have all this knowledge. What do we do with it? Is it all going to be in my head? I just turned 70, so I'm not so sure that even if it is in my head, I will even have access to it soon. You know what I mean? So it's time to upload the information, create a digital, use the technology. Oh my God, the technology is so wonderful. Using a modern technology to save an ancient endangered culture. That is the best. So I've worked it out where I have a team of data uploaders. Because why? Because I got the money to get the computers and get the training and put kids through computer schools in order to upload this huge amount of information. With physical objects, these are the smaller yarn paintings. They take up a whole room. But each and every one of these is digitally photographed, has its catalog number, has its description, has its name. That's what I'm talking about when we're creating a database that's going to last for posterity. It's the Huichol Center's gift to posterity, this database. And, even Lila Downs and Pink love our stuff. And that's the artist, Pink, boy. Yeah, she's worn our wolf earrings and Lila Downs. But what I'm trying to say here is that there's so much information and so many physical artifacts that need to be chronicled. Oh, there's that Vogue front cover. She wasn't kidding, Susan. There's so much that needs to be chronicled. And the Huichols themselves are the ones who need to be doing it, in my opinion. I can't force them to. But isn't it wonderful that they find jobs as uploading the important information of their culture instead of going off to be, whatever's menial job somewhere. Anyway, I threw in this Vogue cover just to tell you, yes, we did get really famous, but I also had to include this other newer Vogue cover. You know who that is? That's the Tarahumara marathon runner. She's a linguistic relative of the Huichol people. And so I find it ironic how Indigenous people are now donning the covers of Vogue and fashion magazines. Anyway, so this is for example, this is just a slight part of our bead archive, all the different patterns, all the styles, catalog numbers, artist name, any information we can provide goes into this ethnographic archive. And so what's the good of having an archive if you can't retrofeed it to the youth? It's so important that these young kids get imprinted with the awareness of culture and how special they are to be caretakers of such a beautiful language and legacy and how they can protect it. So this is our educational enrichment school. Computer technology has allowed us to create our own Huichol language curriculum. So we make many school books in the Wixárika language with their symbols. The kids love to come to our school because it's so much fun. They learn to read and write in their own language, but again, they learn the language of symbols. Their cultural heritage provides them with so many animal allies and members of the spirit world. These are the corn maidens, and this is the young man replicating what the shaman does in healing ceremonies. They don't learn the 3 R's at our school. They learn how to be Wixárika, how to read in their language, decipher the symbols, and to keep it going. It's so important that these symbols stick around the planet and are a part of the vernacular of the future world. There's a comparison. The top are symbols from our ethnographic archive of symbols. And of course, on the bottom are some Aztec glyphs. But, it's all part of the same continuum. A lot of my time has been spent documenting the language. And we even created a loteria game with with their symbols. And the kids love playing it. This is our school. And again, the computer technology is really inspiring us now, because so much of what we know is going to be easily accessible in whatever language you speak on computers in our museum. This is an example of an interactive yarn painting. You clicked on it on any image, and then it'll bring up what the image means in the language that you want. Digital technology, I love it. Somebody from, France can come in the door and get a program in their language, or a Japanese person, or they don't even have to come to the museum. All of this stuff can be sent digitally, and people can be supporting Indigenous cultures throughout the far corners of the world, just through using the digital of curriculum, of downloading curriculum that we create at the Huichol Center. This is a game where they're using computer technology to color in the pages of we were talking about the importance of seed banking here. So these are the corn, and the kids are coloring them in on the computer. So we have a lot of award-winning students who've gone through our school. The guy on the right is now a human rights lawyer. It's interesting to see intergenerationally how one person really can have an impact to change the world and change people's lives. The story of the Huichol Center is a success story. It's a model. It's a prototype to be followed. And when we're thinking about, the remaining Indigenous cultures, the ones here in San Miguel, you have Chichimecan, you have Otomi, you have Nahuatl people. Their languages are still alive, and their people are still do their traditions. But what do we know about them? What does the average person know about the woman who's selling her little dolls on the street? That's what we know about them. Oh, the Otomi people sell the cute little dolls, and I want to get a coloring book from San Miguel. No. This conscious women, it's our job. It's our imperative to bring the knowledge of the beautiful Indigenous heritage of this region into common knowledge, and to create a center where people from all over the world can access it, either physically or digitally. I love what I say here. Each new generation receives the memories and messages passed down to them by the venerated elders, adding more knowledge to the age-old continuum of their collective Indigenous wisdom throughout the annals of time. But right now, the candles are burning low for the present generation of Wixárika children, who are fast being assimilated into the dominant culture and region. As the voices of the elders become echoes of the past, their words of wisdom may no longer fall upon the ears of future generations. It all hangs in the balance with this current generation of Wixárika youth, who will determine the fate of their ancient tribe in the modern world. Wixárika children are the messengers of what their people have carried forward through thousands of years, and the incubators of the seeds to humanity's future. Will these beautiful children be the last generation to inherit their precious Wixárika legacy? Not on my watch, folks. So here's what's happening. Here's what I want to tell you about. Cartel violence is just ravaging my wonderfully beloved Wixárika Huichol Center in Huichol, and it's time to get out of there. Grenades go off on the street. They got drones with weapons, gun battles. It's crazy. People are dying all the time. Huichols are kidnapped, and it's too close, and I'm scared. I'm scared to be there. I'm scared for the collection. It's like the Library of Alexandria coming under threat. And so, we need to safeguard the Huichol Center. We need to safeguard the Huichol people, provide alternative sources of income, of jobs for them. We need to get this collection into safekeeping. And you know what? Bad things happen, but you close a door and a window opens. It's the most fantastic idea to create the Indigenous Heritage Center here in San Miguel. Make the Huichol Center archive and collection part of the permanent collection that can also travel throughout the world. But include here the important Indigenous heritage you have here. There's pyramids, the Cañada de la Virgen pyramid. How many of us ever go out there? You know, it's like, who knew? Who knew? And the Otomi people are still alive and well. This could bring all these benefits and income to them. We have the gigantic cactus gardens really close by in Querétaro. There's so many things that we can draw on to make this become in Atotonilco, a destination location for local San Miguel locals and for international community. I'm so excited about this, which is why I'm reaching out to you all today. I'm a real good investigator. I take real good field notes, but I don't know anything about creating the infrastructure for such a huge project that needs input from so many people. So this is just a little list of skills needed to put even the first step together to create a steering committee. And okay, how are we going to go about doing this? So I guess if you go and listen to the recording to this and go through it again, you can have access to this list. Or if you want to take a picture, a screenshot of this, this is my contact information. And be in touch. I want to set up a meeting maybe in 2 weeks if everyone can clear their calendars. Let's get the steering committee going. You know, like I said, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first steps. Let's do this, people. Let's do this. And it's not just to benefit the Indigenous people. It's not just to benefit the locals here. It's humanity at large. We're planting seeds of consciousness when we, I guess for the lack of another word, when we rescue, when we conserve Indigenous wisdom. That wisdom cannot be allowed to just fade into the drawers of the Smithsonian or something. You know, it's alive, it's well. The Huichol people are well. They need our assistance, they need our input, and they need, I can't speak for them, but relationships of reciprocity. So please reach out to me. And I would love us to connect with other Rotary clubs. We have people in Canada.
I suppose there's probably a lot of questions. We're really running short on time, folks, because they're going to kick us out of the room here. But does anybody have any questions here in the room at all?
I would like to pose a question.
Sure.
You know, Mexico has done quite a bit of research in the different indigenous groups. There is a National Institute, of course, of Anthropology and History, and there is a repository of information. I believe it is a real pity that this current government hasn't given sufficient funding to the projects, the many projects that exist, but also say that there is a lot done, that there is a lot that exists, I believe.
Already.
On all cultures, there has been efforts to preserve the different languages. And I just was wondering if you have, if all this information has gone to the repository that the National University has on all the cultures that exist. And if you have had a collaboration, if you're interested in having a collaboration, I don't have much information about, but I know it exists, and I know that there is tons of material that Mexico has researched for years on different cultures.
The Huichol culture and this information that I've been documenting is a world patrimony. It's a world treasure, and it's a Mexican treasure. You know, we must create these centers of education to enlighten and inspire the Mexican people to seek out this knowledge, to fund projects like this, to be enthusiastic and create their own projects in their own regions, to use our project as a prototype. And of course, a main theme of this would be to provide to share information with all the national archives. We're talking about creating something that's going to go through the annals of time.
And it's just that in your list, for example, the last page you had, and you had lawyers at the bottom, legal advisor team, Mexican consultants, but perhaps you bring up contacts with the INA or others that or research on other
Absolutely.
anthropologists who have been working on the subject.
That's why here, look.
I suppose it would include the review, what exists and so on. I mean, I'm very sorry, I admire the project, but I also believe as Mexican that Mexico has looked at some of the information and it couldn't be disregarded. The series of researches that exist, and I'm sure you will.
Well, it's definitely a collaborative effort, which is why high up on here, we say academic program coordinator, teachers, curriculum designs, Indigenous, anthropological, archaeological, linguistic consultants. That's all about INA stuff.
You know, and I think you will have among those people, many people who want to work with you.
Well, that's why I got that list up there, and I hope take a picture of the list too, folks.
Susanna, what kind of a timeline are you looking at to try and get this project, which I think would be fabulous, but to get the project off the ground?
Well, the first thing, it's 2 minutes away from the doomsday clock. As far as the Huichol Center archive is concerned, the first priority is getting that archive to safety. We have a safe place here in Atotonilco with Susan and Mira Schacter's. They're beautiful. Their beautiful land and buildings are safekeeping part of it from now. The first thing is to get the collection out of there.
How much would it cost to get it here?
We have a donor box campaign for $30,000. We've gotten 18,000. We've gotten 18,000 of it. We still need quite a bit. It's a long distance to take it from. We have to create the installations and everything to safe keep it. But the most important thing after that is to acquire the building there and the grounds. Once we, so that's why I'm really interested in collaborating with other Rotary clubs. Not just, I'm not thinking about operational expenses. I'm thinking about acquiring long-term investments of property, of computers, of permaculture, land management, equipment, garden things. And so, so that's what we need to have, a collaborative effort to raise the amount of money we need to purchase the land and the building. That would be just the most excellent godsend location. And any of you who want to come out and see the property and see how it's so perfectly adapted to creating a museum there. It's already got the space, it's got the infrastructure, everything. Please be in touch with me, email me, or let's get that first steering committee ready to go and see what the basic needs are. But timeline, yesterday,
Yeah.
you know.
Susanna, thank you for being here. It was a
Love
great
meeting you all.
presentation.
Hope I have a whole bunch more meetings.
Ron Lennox, you want to bring us up to date on what we have coming up in the short minutes we no longer have, but go ahead.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Again, this is the largest group we've had. We meet every Tuesday, and hopefully my team puts together good programs. We have in the past, and we have good things for you lined up. Next week, Mauricio Trejo will be here to give an update to the city. The week after that is Helen Rivas Rose. Her book, Brave, A Painfully Shy Life. So coming out of isolation will be an excellent program. On the 5th, we have the Citizen of the Year Award. Charlotte Bell will join us again. She is the expert on Semana Santa. So she will be giving updates on Semana Santa. And then on the 19th, we go out physically. We go out to El Charco to have an on-site visit. I hope you know that the new visitor center is up. I was there yesterday. It's gorgeous, gorgeous.
Right.
So we'll have an on-site visit to.
It's a field trip. A Rotary field trip. It will not be on Zoom, by the way. All right. Thank you, Ron. And for all of you Rotarians, just a sad note I wanted to pass along for those of you that do not know. Our club secretary, Ron Felton, and his wife, Linda, had to go back to Miami because his mother-in-law, Ron's mother-in-law, had been seriously ill for quite some time and had been in hospice care. She did pass away on Sunday, and the funeral arrangements and everything were taking place today. So keep Ron and his family in your thoughts and prayers. And with that, meeting adjourned.
Yeah.
They have another meeting in here today.